Microsoft 365 cost optimization, and I'm joined by Daryl Ullman. And please give me a few seconds. We had a serious technical glitch here just before the live, so I need to reopen the presentation, and we'll restart. Just please give us a few seconds. I'm just gonna do the countdown, so everybody is still joining. Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Daryl, please let me know if you can hear me, because I'm not sure.
I can hear you very well.
Good, I can hear you very well too. Again, we're talking today about Microsoft 365 cost avoidance. And yeah, let's start, as we don't really have a roll-in opportunity anymore. We already have people watching us. Everybody, please say hello. I'm seeing concerned people in chat asking what's going on with this stream. I told you that there was a temporary glitch on the stream, and for some reason it wasn't just working. So we're here, which is good. Thank you for your patience again. I'm joined today by Daryl Ullman, and we'll introduce ourselves very shortly. Actually, let's start now. Let's not waste any of your time. So who am I? I'm Alexander Golev. I'm the founder of this channel, SAMexpert, and from about the beginning of April, I'm also an independent consultant again. I used to have a company called QCS, which was in the previous lifetime. Now there's a new company called Itamin, or Itamin, depending on where you live. I don't really mind how you pronounce it. And I'm a Microsoft licensing expert with an experience with more than 20 years in this industry, IT. And, if I count my software asset management years, that will be probably about 18. And I'm completely independent, so not attached to any partnerships, any vendors. Your agenda is my agenda. So here we are. And my guest again today is Daryl Ullman, a pretty famous person, but I'll let him introduce himself.
Thank you very much, Alex. Quick intro and we'll move forward. Daryl Ullman, I've been around Microsoft licensing since 1998. So wow. That's 23 years. Started my career off at not my career, but my second major position was at Microsoft in 1998. And since then, I went independent in 2004, established my own SAM company that I managed and ran for almost 15, 16 years. I sold it a number of years ago, and I've been freed of all obligations of running a company, and I'm here as a guest of Alex to share my experience around Microsoft. I also wrote a book a number of years ago about negotiating with Microsoft. Actually, it's a good baseline for negotiating with any software vendor, but has some very specifics about Microsoft. And I'm just excited to be here today, Alex. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you, Daryl, for joining me again today. It's always entertaining to have us both on the channel. It's much easier than just being here alone. So, just a quick announcement before we move on. You may know that we're doing a training, which is free of charge. Between August and November, there'll be 8 sessions, 1 session in each fortnight, each 2 weeks. And after that, which is a nice thing, we're gonna give a test that you could pass, and if you pass it, we're gonna give you a digital badge. That's gonna be a Microsoft license management training, not like a typical licensing training. We're gonna talk about license management, so all the executive aspects as well, lifecycle management, processes, Microsoft basics, Microsoft playbook. So please join us. There's an event page on LinkedIn. You can find it there. If you don't find it there, you can go to SAMexpert.com, and then in the top menu there's a link to the free training. So hope to see you there, and hope you'll survive until that date. Right, moving on then. So let's start with myths and misconceptions around Microsoft 365 and Office 365, and what Microsoft call cloud offerings, hero offerings, and stuff like that. And the biggest misconception, and unfortunately, and one of my crusades is to go against any licensing balderdash. Even some LSPs sometimes tell the customers, yes, you must standardize on one single package. You must. If you sign an enterprise agreement with Microsoft Cloud for Office 365, Microsoft 365, you absolutely must go with just one package. You must standardize. That is not true. And that is the basis for cost avoidance. What is cost avoidance? Is your future planning to reduce your costs. So you must understand that, unlike the previous enterprise agreements, unlike the enterprise agreements that were based on Microsoft Office Professional Plus and Windows licenses and client access licenses, not going very deep into licensing details, the previous pre-cloud enterprise agreements, with the Microsoft 365 based enterprise agreements, you can pick and choose. You can mix and match. So if anyone tells you that you absolutely must go with one single package, that is absolutely not true. And this is the core message that we're sending today, and we'll tell you how to properly right size your enterprise agreement for your needs, for your budget. So there are 2 types of Microsoft licenses online services, Microsoft Online Services, that you can buy through an enterprise agreement. So obviously, enterprise agreement means that you need to have some sort of an enterprise product to sign it. There's a minimum of 500 licenses that you must procure. They're all subscription licenses to be eligible to sign an enterprise agreement. And they are split into what you probably know really well, and depending on how much do you know about Microsoft licensing in the cloud. There are obviously the core, the hero offerings, the enterprise products, which are Microsoft 365 or Office 365, E3, E5. Those, the core ones, the ones that Microsoft are pushing, and E5 is the one that they're trying to sell to everybody. And Microsoft 365 is a bundle of bundles, which in turn contains security bundles, which actually drive the adoption of E5. Security bundles, that's the main driver right now. Security features by Microsoft. Those are like EMS, E3, E5 packages, bundles. But there are also, which is for some reason should be common knowledge, but it's not, there are also Frontline packages. And you can pick and choose. You can designate certain people to use enterprise packages, and you can also have as additional products. You can have those Frontline packages. It's no more every user in the organization must be licensed with a single package. It's not like that. You can profile, you can choose, and then you procure. So that's the logic.
Alex, if I might just interrupt and ask, when was F3 introduced?
There was a very long story about renaming. So what used to be F1 became F3.
Correct. It used to be F1. It became F3, and then F1 was rebundled?
It's a very confusing story. The current F1 is a very, very cut down version. So one of the features of F1, and I wanted to go into features kind of very, very quickly to touch on features, because if you want to learn about exact features of packages, so either let's have a Monday morning Microsoft show about these features, or I think the better option will be we have a Microsoft Cloud training around, let me calculate, 18th of August. So there we're going to cover all the details about packages and what's included, what's not included, how you choose them. So, but today I just want to mention a few things. So with the frontline packages, you must be aware there are limitations, and we'll touch on them as well. But one of them is quite funny. So the current F1, so the previous what was called F1 became F3. The current F1 has an Exchange mailbox, but you're not allowed to use it. So it's really for those frontline workers that don't need email. Maybe your delivery people that only need access to SharePoint or something like that. That carry their smartphones with them or smart devices, so in which they scan delivery packages and stuff like that. So
So basically, what you're saying, without getting into detail, if I had an F1 license in my enterprise agreement a couple of years ago, that was transitioned automatically into an F3 license. So I'm eligible to the newer version.
It's actually a bit complicated, more complicated. Yes, if your enterprise agreement is still active and it was signed at the time when
the F1 exists, and then there was a transition to F3, I'm eligible to the F3 license?
I think you're automatically switched to it. As far as I remember my cases. So what you're going to see in your Office 365 portal is you bought F1, but you're going to have F3 licenses.
But you're going to see F3. Thank you. No, I just want to clarify that.
Because it's an online, it's a live service. So basically, when Microsoft change anything, it is automatically reflected in your portal. The good thing, by the way, the good thing about enterprise agreements compared to, say, if you bought licenses in a CSP, is that there's a rule in the enterprise agreement. If say Microsoft changes anything in the packages or an online service service terms, and that is to your detriment, so kind of stricter than it used to be, it doesn't apply to you until the end of your subscription period.
Got it.
So that's if somebody's right now comparing cons and pros of CSP and EA, there are very many advantages of CSP, but disadvantage that your terms are fixed for 3 years. It's one of the features of an enterprise agreement, which is not inherited by CSP in any shape or form. Right. So cost avoidance. Another myth and misconception is that bundles are always better and cheaper. And this is one of the things we do for our customers. We debundle them because, I only started Itamin a couple of months ago, but all the customers that I deal with right now, all of them have this concern around Office 365, Microsoft 365. And although with Microsoft, in many cases, bundles are cheaper than separate components. And it applies to Microsoft 365 as well. If you take prices of each component in an M365 E5, say, package, which is the biggest, the hero offering, then the total price of those components will be significantly higher than the bundle. But what we find is that almost every customer, by the way, I'm not saying not every customer can actually benefit from cherry picking certain components. So, and then when you add those components, only the ones that you need, you don't even need to buy EMS E5 as a security package, because what I find is that customers only need one or two features of that package. And then, with picking and choosing separate, very small components, licenses, you can actually reduce costs.
But there must be some kind of, I'm interrupting, because there must be some kind of break-even point. So if you have you have quite a few components that make up E5 or EMS E5 or EMS E3, there must be some kind of calculation that you should make, if you start purchasing individual components. At a certain point, those individual components will be more beneficial to buy as a package. Is that something that you recommend to analyze and to perform that back? Okay.
Exactly. That is what I'm suggesting to analyze, with one little caveat. So if the difference of if the difference between the bundle price and the components is small, it's almost a gamble. I mean, somebody needs to take a decision. Why I'm saying this is, just recently, Microsoft has increased prices on separate components, but didn't touch the bundles. Does it mean that will stay like that forever, for a long time? I don't know. So these days, today, it may be cheaper to buy a bundle in certain cases. That's what Microsoft want you to do, to kind of stop cherry picking. That is why there's this almost like a hidden promotion. Bundle becomes cheaper than the set of all its components, or even a pretty large subset, but not all of the components. Will that remain the same in the future? I would not put my money on any of the answers. So it's a gamble. It's a gamble. But certainly you need to benchmark.
What I'm hearing from you, Alex, is that you really need to know which components you actually need. It's not one bundle fits all needs. You have to do your homework. You have to really understand what components, what features components you're receiving, and go back to your organization and identify, out of all the components, what are you going to use today or in 6 months, not shelfware. And I think you're going to talk about it as we go forward, but what about competitor products that are already in use in your organization? So you like double paying or double dipping, same products, double paying for them. So there are quite a few considerations that need to be made, both from a technical perspective, long-term perspective, management, and ultimately there is leverage. And I think we're going to touch on that in the negotiations, because the better you know which components you need and what you're going to utilize or not, you've got a much more complex or advanced discussion with Microsoft. It's not only pricing, it's more of a what are my needs discussion.
Yes, and thank you, by the way, for mentioning the alternatives, because as we are transitioning into the preparation phase of this presentation, I'd like to mention upfront that when we talk about what you're going to use, you need to get out of this, of the box thinking, like we're only thinking about Microsoft. Think about everything. What are you replacing with Microsoft, or what you might actually use alternatively to replace Microsoft when you assess the needs? And that is why it's very important to start preparation early, because Microsoft, 18 months here is quite an interesting number. Microsoft will start negotiating with you 18 months before your renewal. You will not even feel it. It'll be very subtle. There'll be some reconnaissance operations, some intelligence gathered. Microsoft have all the tools, all the knowledge. I mean, this is what they do. This is what they do. It's their day-to-day business. So you understand that. So at the same time, we advise all our customers. I mean, obviously, usually organizations start like 6 months prior, sometimes a year prior, but please don't delay it. When it's 90 days before the renewal, it's too late. If you're an enterprise, and we deal with enterprises like sizes of 200,000 seats, if you're that size of an enterprise, you may still negotiate it, but there'll be many, many sleepless nights, and some things may be easily just lost. So start early, and start thinking about what you're going to do. But even before that, because, well, we've just recently seen a case when procurement did a very good job, but Microsoft circumvented procurement, went to C-level and struck everybody's under E5 deal that was just basically pushed down from the C-level to procurement. We've just signed the deal, and which, a matter of not so long ago.
I want to say something on this point.
I'll let you talk on this slide if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I really like this slide because I do a lot of negotiations in the IT world in general, and one of the tactics really used well by Microsoft, large vendors in general, but Microsoft specifically, is that they are trained. This is not by accident. They are trained to engage C-level decision makers. And C-level decision makers, they just don't have that technical background or understanding of what E5 is, or what bundles are, or what components are, and they don't have to. It's not their job to know. And you, as the responsible agent within the company for Microsoft, it's actually your responsibility to make sure your C-level executives that have a connection back to Microsoft have been briefed on what your organization's requirements are. So if they are not briefed on what you actually need, a bit about what E5 is or what E3 is, what are your actual requirements, really short email brief. You can't expect them not to fall into that trap of a very well educated Microsoft account representative presenting to them the best deal possible with very lucrative discounts on the highest version of Microsoft 365, and positioning it as, well, all organizations similar to yours are actually going to E5. Our security, Microsoft security, is the standard today. You can't fall back. So they use a bit of a frightening tactic, bit of a comparison tactic. Everybody else is doing it. You can't be left behind. Your procurement they just want to save money. You need to look strategically at what your organization really requires. Think long term. All kinds of really high level strategic message points that are really, really well articulated by Microsoft. So you need to prepare your C-level. You need to know in advance that this is going to happen, especially in large organizations where Microsoft is very well connected, and they plan out the negotiation strategy well in advance, 18 months, exactly what Alex pointed out. Microsoft actually has an 18-month, T-minus 18-month negotiation preparation plan, where every account manager needs to put into place a plan for large enterprises. I'm not talking about enterprises that are maybe below 500, but over 500 and above. So the Microsoft rep has to present to his or her management that plan. And that plan includes executive sponsorship and executive intervention, and when that is going to happen. So I just want to keep in mind what Alex is saying is so true. I've seen deals in the wrong direction because of this tactic, costing large organizations millions of dollars to spend for something they really don't need, and they locked in Not for 3 years. 3 years might seem like a long term, and you've got a 3-year contract. 3 years goes by very quickly. You're very quickly looking at 6 and 9 years, and you lock into a bundle that you might not even be using, or you might only start implementing certain components 12, 18 months or 24 months after you actually purchased it. So, Alex, really, really good point.
Yeah, thank you. And adding to that point is when you brief your executive, just use the same tactic. Explain to your executive, we're not missing out. Yes, everybody is using it, but yes, we're considering the security components. But we're considering debundling them. We're considering optimizing that package for our particular organizational needs. So, kind of, dear CEO, please do not fall into the trap of nice promises, because we're doing a good job here. We're aware of all this. This is what we're considering. These are the alternatives. So do a brief. Let them be informed. And one of the we had another live about negotiations and preparations. One of the other advices that we gave there was just tell your C-level people to agree to everything, but just don't sign it, because give us some breathing room so we can have a discussion. Do not strike that deal. I know it's very difficult. I know people who own companies, they'd like to understand, they'd like to have this feeling that, they're in control of everything and their decision is the final one. If you want to save your organization money, and by the way, we have a message in the chat which basically confirms what I just said. We have worked with multiple organizations and have experienced at least 10 to 15% savings is achieved only by unbundling and buying whatever is being used, which is very much aligns to what we see as well in our day-to-day business. So there you go. So DSC level, we're not necessarily missing out on security. We're just going to pick and choose what we need. That's it. So obviously, you get to the point when you've prepared, you've built your team, you start kind of assessing what you do. So what are the key steps? What are the key things you need to do? I have 2 slides here. So let me start with this one. What are your personas? It's the term that Microsoft use and Microsoft partners use to define white collar persona, frontline persona. So what are your personas? It might be that in your industry, if you say if you're a stock trading company, you may not even have a breakdown between personas. So you may only save by picking and choosing components of bundles and bundling things. But if you are in retail, if you're in consumer goods, fast-moving consumer goods, if you are in retail banking, where you have blue-collar workers, there you may review a possibility to use F packages, F3, F1. And by the way, if somebody tells you, but they're not secure, so I didn't stop on that on my slide when I was discussing it. Actually, I can go back to that slide briefly. There's from February this year, there's an offering from Microsoft. There's a security package called F5 Security and Compliance, which is basically almost a full equivalent. The technical people may correct me, but in my understanding, it's almost a full equivalent of EMS E5, but for frontline workers and heavily discounted.
Yeah, so, I researched that a while back, and you're absolutely correct. It's actually a very good security add-on. If you choose to take F3, F1, and you want to have the same security level as your Microsoft E5, this gives you a really, really good solution at a much, much lower entry point, pricing point.
Yep. So there are a few pitfalls, a few caveats. We will cover it in the August training in deep details, but I'd like it to just to give you a few examples where you need to pay attention to certain things, like what types of devices they're using or what sort of functionality they're using. Because I already mentioned that current F1 doesn't have an Exchange mailbox. So then if you want to give mailboxes to people with F1, you need to procure Exchange Online. So that's an increase of the F1 cost. But then again, F1 plus Exchange Online may not cost you as much as a full E3, E5 package. So think about that. So assess those possibilities.
So what you're saying, Alex, I'm sorry for jumping in. So what you're basically suggesting is that, for example, if I have a line worker and I want to just provide him with basic functionality, I don't know, just maybe email, access to some specific files or information, I can basically build up my own profile, saying I could take an F1, if I understand you correctly, add on an exchange plan 1 license, and maybe even add on a security and compliance component for F5 for security reasons. And I've got a new bundle specifically for those workers, instead of jumping all the way to E3 or E5 full license, and that's going to cost me considerably less. I think, I don't know, you know, maybe remember the prices better than I do, but I think it's more than 50% just by building that.
Yeah, I agree. It's more than 50% saving. Plus, there's another thing. There's another cherry on the pie in regards to frontline worker licenses. They're not enterprise products, which means that you may reduce them as you please, you know, at the anniversary. So you with the enterprise products, there's a threshold below which you may not go. You may re-profile inside that quantity, say like shift between the 3 and the 5 or other things, other packages, your own bundles that you design, but you may not go below number of qualified users. And there are certain terms in the enterprise agreement which define how that's regulated when it's not an additional product. But F3 packages are additional products, and on additional products there's no commitment. So if say you know tomorrow you decide, you know what, we're going to stop doing retail, it's a crazy example, but if you decide that, then you can just get rid of all those blue color licenses. Simple as that. Or your work, you know, you replace your people with robots. Same applies here. So the example about devices here is that what you need to remember about F1, F3, that those are, if you're even if you're blue collar workers, but they work with their own device, like say a laptop with a screen size more than 10.1 inches, and it's not shared with other even through shifts with other people, so it's their, not only just their primary device, it's like they're the primary user, it's their device, then in that case you may not you're not eligible for any of the F frontline packages. So what you need to understand is limitations like that, which will then again we'll cover in the free training. It's going to be live like this, so I'm not pulling you into any funnel. It's just going to be another live in August where we're going to give you all the details about those packages and those limitations. So assess things like this, and if you want to learn about them today, there's it's the information, the comparisons between the packages and all the limitations. They're open. Where you can find them, Google them. Where you can find the exact details, Microsoft product, Google Microsoft product terms, go to the website and just study it. So it's not rocket science, really. It's just if you want to understand your licensing, I encourage you to at least get familiar with product terms. And if you're a C-level person and you're thinking right now, oh my God, I don't want to get my head around it, just ask an expert. Ask an expert. So they'll help you. And this is what we do, actually. So shameless plug. Assess what they need. And here, the reason for this slide was because what I see happening often is that there's a lot of wishful thinking. And what I mean by that is that managers think this profile will be certainly using these features. They will certainly require this. You know, they really need this. And I'm talking about like complex profiles, Power BI Pro. Everybody's going to be using Power BI Pro. Will they? So be very skeptical about it. Do not overcommit. You can always, that's the beauty of it. You can always then change it. You can go up as you can go down as well, but it's safer to stay at a lower threshold and then, you know, just procure licenses as you need them, because I don't know if you're aware, but in an enterprise agreement, you place a reservation and then you pay for for the license in the end of the year, but only for the months you used it. So for the it's prorated per month, which is beautiful, I think. What we also encourage you to do is, if you are already an Office 365, Microsoft 365 subscriber, assess the actual usage. Assess the actual usage. Are those licenses actually in use? Are they assigned to some zombies? People who've already quit the company, they're still holding on to some licenses. Are these active users? So what is actually going on? Because the average across the industry right now, this is not my number. This was taken from one of the kind of online events where we discussed with other professionals in the industry what's the average saving on the just optimization of 365 licenses, Microsoft 365 licenses. The number is about 18%. So across the board, across all the industries, across all the clients that people could remember, 18% is wasted. You don't want to carry that into your new term. You want to get rid of that. So wishful thinking is dangerous. That's why my approach to this is look at what you want to be using, but also look back and kind of in the hindsight. But will they actually be using this? Is it going to be deployed? When is it going to be deployed? If it's going to be deployed in 2 years, why would you subscribe for it now? So this is the sort of assessment. What do they need? So you've defined your personas, and this is how you cherry pick. Be skeptical. Be pessimistic, if it makes sense. Daryl, do you have anything to add to this?
I just want to add to this that just maybe a small point on the component of the BI component, Premium or Pro. That's really, it's like, sometimes it's like the break-even point of moving to E5, taking E5. But maybe if you could also help me just with my memory, if you don't want to take, I'll phrase it, can you purchase BI Pro separately outside of the E5 bundle? Because many times Microsoft pushes you to E5 because, well, everybody needs this component. Are there any other options there?
Of course you can. You can buy almost everything that is a Microsoft Online service, including Power BI. So why wouldn't they show it? So why wouldn't they sell it separately? So for instance,
and is it only sold as a component, or can it be sold as a kind of based on capacity? So you can get a full capacity.
That is a rabbit hole where I didn't want to go today.
Sorry.
You can buy capacity-based BI Premium,
and then it saves you buying E5 maybe for everybody with that additional component, and then getting a load of components that you don't need at a price you don't need. So I just want to say that there's place for thought and being very creative, and not one product should determine if you're taking the higher bundle. You should look at what the other options are, because many times there are other options that Microsoft provides. They just don't present it to you. So at the end of the day,
you buy that. Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that it's the end user's responsibility, not Microsoft. And I don't expect anything from Microsoft. I truly don't. I don't expect from Oracle or from SAP or from IBM. They don't. Many times the account managers and the representatives, they don't even know. They don't know what they don't know. Okay? And they won't provide all this information that you're providing and all this in-depth knowledge and potential options, and because they don't even have the knowledge of what the options are out there, what their own company has to offer. So don't expect that from Microsoft.
It's brutal. That's true. It's brutal, but
go out and you do that due diligence and have a good understanding of what your options are. Otherwise, it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars and more over many, many years, because nobody's going to remember why you took a decision in 3, 4, 5 years. It's going to be a rolling cost for many, many, many years to come.
Yeah, the cost could be quite substantial. I mean, 20% in my field where I work, when it's not
Year on
taken
year,
care of,
accumulated.
20%. 20%. I mean, and I'm saying that when 20% is very abstract number. So say an organization has an enterprise agreement which costs them, or just on that side, 30 million. So what's 20% out of 30 million? That's $6 million, pounds or euro, wasted on an annual basis. That's a huge
small contract,
amount of money.
Alex, take £1 million, €1 million for
Yeah.
a small organization, and 20% is 200,000. With 200,000, you can do a lot of additional activities within your organization, and take that year on year over a 3-year period. It's 600,000. So, and then if you take a 10 million or 30 million, it's a lot of money. It's you know. There's a very good note here from George about the robust governance model that you need to have in place, that most organizations actually lack, to manage multiple profiles. And he's absolutely correct. I agree with George. But I just want to point out that it's cheaper to have a governance expert full-time within your organization just managing your Microsoft estate than paying that extra fee. But you need to have that business case, that ROI presented to your managers in order to get that additional headcount. But in the long run, you should have that governance in place, and you should have that headcount in place. Ultimately, it's cheaper than paying that extra fee just to get that peace of mind from Microsoft.
I completely agree. Just a quick question, just a technical one. Is F1 also similarly a product which has no minimum commitment? Correct. F1 doesn't have a minimum commitment. So moving on, because we've only got half an hour to be before your hard stop, Daryl. One thing before I actually hand over almost completely to Daryl, because we're going to talk about negotiations of that renewal, where you want to save cost avoidance, not cost saving, avoid costs on spending too much on the Microsoft 365 products. There's one mistake that you need to always pay attention to this, because I see this across the board as well. So shared usage. There are two types of shared usage. So one type of shared usage is when you create a single Office 365 account to which people access that have no licenses themselves. And the other option is, say you have a group of people that have their own licenses, but for some reason you create a shared account for them for some technical reasons, shared mailbox or anything like it. So what we see, unfortunately, is that organizations create those accounts and assign full licenses to those shared accounts. So firstly, if your case is that you, say, have 5 security people and they only use one Office 365 account, that is non-compliant. That is a bad thing that will undermine your negotiations. If Microsoft find out that you share one user account, it's a user license. So each user requires a license. If you share one user license between multiple protein life forms or warm bodies, well, you're in trouble. That's how you go on non-compliant on Office 365. On the other hand, which is I see this in government organizations in the United Kingdom. You may have everybody licensed with a proper Office 365 package, and then also there'll be shared mailboxes for various regulatory reasons, legislative reasons, technical reasons, which will keep like group mails and stuff like that. And they also assign that full package. That mailbox doesn't require Office 365 products. That mailbox probably doesn't require all the EMS E5 security components either. So you may need some sort of compliance components there, some sort of security, but only a limited subset. And the basic shared mailboxes, by the way, they're still free. So strictly speaking, a modern organization will rarely be in the case when it's going to be completely free. but it's only a fraction of the price of a fully fledged Microsoft 365 E3 E5 license. It's simple as that. Please assess when you do assessment of your Office 365, either when you renew or you, as I said, you can change quantities midterm. Look at the shared usage. Try to remove all the non-compliant usage. So if you have those 5 security people using a shared account, stop. Give them F1 and create a shared mailbox if they need a shared mailbox. But be creative about it. But they still must be licensed. They still must be licensed for the features they're using. And by the way, I'm still not sure. I mean, can you give them a shared mailbox if they don't have Exchange Online? So this is something that needs to be researched as well. And you know what? You can be. I call myself an expert in Microsoft licensing, but I never trust myself. I always refer back to product terms, and online terms. By the way, they change on a monthly basis. So always check what's there when you renew, when you right size. So you've done your assessment. You've prepared your C-level people. You have defined your personas. You now know that you don't need a bundle for everybody. And that's why you face Microsoft. Daryl, to you.
Okay, thank you, Alex. So I'm very much aware of the time. So just, Alex, if I need to move forward and I get stuck on something, please just push me forward. So let's just talk about being in charge. One of the most important aspects, especially with profiling and Microsoft 365, as Alex pointed out, is defining your requirements and being in the driver's seat. If you don't define your requirements, either verbally or I like it to be in writing, and providing it to Microsoft, they will provide to you their first proposal. And their first proposal will automatically be with Microsoft 365 E5. It's always been the case. And once they position that first proposal with the highest level, highest profile option, and if they do provide out of the door a discount, if you come back and you ask for a lower profile, you're not going to be able to transfer that discount that you've already received. So you're locked in to a predetermined negotiation strategy that Microsoft has decided on, not you as an organization. So start off with defining your requirements very carefully, putting them into writing, getting your entire organization to sign off on it, so Microsoft doesn't circumvent your team and go to security and go to C-level and governance and so on and so on. Make sure everybody's online, and then send it out to Microsoft. And if they start pushing back, oh no, nobody goes to E3, go to E5, let's start off with E5. Let me just send you a proposal for E5 so we have a negotiation going, a process, push back, push back, push back. You can always go up. Very difficult to go down. And then, of course, price lock and alternatives on bundles. Look to the long run, because once you locked into a bundle, you locked in for 3 years plus. It's always good to have options. So even if today you don't need F1 or F3 or just Exchange Online, as Alex pointed out, it's an additional product. So as an additional product, you can already lock in preset pricing for the term of your agreement. And then that gives you the flexibility as you go forward and you start adapting to change your environment. And you've got a fixed price, you're not locked in, and you've got flexibility.
Yeah, that's a good point as well, because imagine you decided at the beginning to go with E5, and then midterm you decide, okay, fine, we're gonna rebundle everything. We're gonna reduce the E5s, and we're gonna buy the bundles. What will happen is, most certainly, you're gonna have some sort of a discount on E5, and the bigger you are, the bigger the discount is. So say imagine that you have 20% discount, which is not that actually impossible. on E5, you negotiated it, you got that, and then the midterm, you decide, okay, fine, we want to reduce that. You're not getting that 20% on anything that you haven't negotiated in the beginning and locked the price on. It's all, even if you don't have a discount, the prices may go up.
Exactly.
And when you add a new product, when you didn't buy that in the beginning, your price is not locked. So that's why I would rather, when you renew, still have those personas, various profiles, and lock in prices for components. If you can debundle as much as you can, maybe just for a small number of users, even if you buy one, your price is locked for the term of the enterprise agreement. It's a good thing. Shall we?
Yeah, let's move on. Okay, so let me just explain what the meaning of BATNA is for those of you that are not acquainted. So BATNA is best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So what a BATNA means is that is your, I'll almost call it your fallback position in the negotiation. It's not your red lines or your least desirable outcome from Microsoft. It is what is your best alternative if things don't work out. If you need to walk away from E5 and you're looking at E5 because of the security components, I can only assume because of security components. Otherwise, there's no reason to look at E5 really, because there are alternatives for all the BI components as well, as Alex pointed out. But you need to make sure that when you enter into the negotiation stage, you have that alternative. You know that if you don't take E5, you've got another security component or security bundle or several components, several companies that can provide you with the same service. That is not only power when you discuss with Microsoft as leverage, but it gives you something else that most people don't realize. It gives you self-confidence. Because ultimately, when you are negotiating, you are bringing yourself to the negotiation table. What you bring to the table, what you present, your persona, your personal persona, is going to determine how Microsoft perceives you and your leverage. So if you have a good BATNA, that will provide you with the confidence that the other side will perceive as power. And that power will determine how far you can take the negotiation in your direction. So remember, having a good BATNA is, I think, is one of the most powerful components of any negotiation. And in this case, E5 or breakdown of profiles, having an alternative security, or maybe, you know, people don't like hearing this, but maybe Google as email for your frontline workers, if maybe you have some previous historical experience. There are different things to look at. Have a BATNA. So let's move on.
Yeah, and this is one of the BATNAs.
Exactly, security. So rightly said, Alex. Microsoft strategically has made a move. They started 4 or 5 years ago, really aggressively, with their security first strategy. And we're going to be in a situation very soon where Microsoft E5 or Microsoft Security Bundle is going to be the equivalent to Office, where Office has no real competition, because once you've integrated that into your organization, it's like an octopus. It touches every component of your organization. To unbundle it or to move to another platform, it's just not going to happen. So the same way Microsoft became dominant on the desktop with Windows, and then with Office, and then with Active Directory or with Windows and Exchange, they have the same strategy. Let's not be mistaken. This is well thought out, well processed, looking back at history, what has worked, and what has worked is going to work in the future. and that is security, security, security is today's Windows and Office for Microsoft. And tomorrow is going to be something else. It will be E6, E7. There are various options out there that Microsoft, I'm sure, will be introducing in the next 12 or 18 months. So look at your alternatives. And there are times that it's actually worthwhile having a number of components that aren't only from one vendor, but this is a whole different discussion on an organizational strategy, best of breed compared to one vendor. You know, this we can take into any aspect of IT operations. And I think this is a conversation that needs to be had within the organization prior to moving to Microsoft, and not only looking at pricing and at bundles, but taking a larger or a higher, more holistic view of where you're going and what Microsoft has to offer and where you're going to be with Microsoft 3 and 6 years in the future.
It's a good thing about the security products. Well, I have 2 points here. Like I talk about security products and then Google, AWS, and productivity and other things. We discussed it before this live, Daryl, with you, right? So when we agreed that right now almost all the negotiations around E5 are happening around security components. So Microsoft are not buying the bluff of how we're going to go to Google. You know, everybody's locked in on Microsoft, and it's very difficult to move your productivity workloads, productivity software from Office to an alternative. It's still possible, but if you really want to play that card, so the suggestion is, do not bluff to Microsoft. They will know if you're bluffing. So try really kind of do a trial, do a test, because the bigger you are, they'll probably have some Microsoft people on site. They will hear that you're testing this, which will empower your position. But these days, it's all about security products. And well, we've just recently managed to convince Microsoft that the customer really doesn't need E5. And the discount that was offered on E5 was actually applied to E3 plus additional little components, only because we helped this customer to build a very compelling business case around the current use of security products, and that E5 will basically be just a redundant spend. They didn't need it, and even with the promise that we're going to give you a bigger discount, you don't want to be locked in. You know what happens after that. So why are you having this? Excess weight of licenses that you're not using. It just kind of doesn't make sense. So this is a good point. I have a question, Daryl, for you. Maybe you can answer this one. Talking about discounts, should ERP be a benchmark for discount calculations?
So absolutely, I think that you always need to receive ERP pricing. That's for everybody on the call. It's estimated retail price. So ERP is basically Microsoft's price list. And Alex was probably spoken about it in one of his videos about price lists, level A, B, C, D, and then about CSP. So basically, this is Microsoft's list price. And that's where you start calculating your discounts from. And you start calculating it from your level. So if you are a level A or B or C or D customer, your discount starts from your level. Let's say you're a B level, from level B ERP. Don't let Microsoft to confuse you and say, yes, you're getting a 15% discount compared to level A pricing, but you're a level B customer, so it's actually not 15%. I don't know what the calculation is. It's 7% or 8%, depending on the product. So you need to be very, very sure what is the baseline. And if you're not sure about the baseline, ask Microsoft. I've seen some tactics over the years, not only by Microsoft, but actually by resellers, maybe both, but resellers more than Microsoft, where they try and show the customer, well, look, we're giving you a 30%, 40%, 50% discount of list price. And 50% sounds fantastic. But the question is, what is the list price? The list price is not the cost of shelfware, a box, or I don't know, open licenses or whatever it is. It's your specific level that you are entitled to based on Microsoft's programs. So Microsoft sets the program levels. From there, you start calculating your discount. So I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Daryl. There's another one, so which I could probably pick up. So do we have an option to change the program at the time of renewal, like EA to CSP? Applying to Office 365? Yes. So the simple answer is yes. Depending on availability of packages, and so you need to check the availability of packages. What you need to remember about, when your enterprise agreement expires and you decide to kind of drop off it, there's an automatic extension period. So you actually, Microsoft will continue even when your EA expires. If you don't explicitly cancel or migrate to another agreement, Microsoft will continue billing you for the enterprise agreement licenses. So when you're migrating to CSP, you must tell Microsoft that you're migrating. Because otherwise you're going to be paying twice. It's ridiculous, but that's how it works. Well, I actually see it as a feature, not as a bug. It's a good thing, because what if your negotiation drags on? What if something is happening, extraordinary? Your data is not lost. You'll just be billed a bit of a higher price. I think there was like 3 or 5% administration fee, but you're going to be just billed continuously on a monthly basis. As far as I remember, for a year. So all these terms, by the way, it's not a hidden knowledge. It is a paragraph in the enterprise enrollment which explains that. So you can read everything we tell here. Almost, you can read in the actual Microsoft documents. Just spend some time reading that. So many people are dropping because it's already 3:00 here in the UK. I think there's only one point I'd like to touch on, and thank you everybody for being here, is be careful with the E5 adoption. It is a great package, but this was raised in one of the security conferences recently. It was, again, very closed door discussion, that what happens is with the E5 adoption, the Microsoft is pushing the E5 to everybody, and some industries see like 70% adoption of E5 or AMS E5. It actually makes Microsoft a single target for attacks, for exploits, because now everything is from one vendor. Imagine if that SolarWinds hack went wrong, and the hackers managed to get access to more source codes, and maybe somehow we don't know if they're inside there. So you have a single vendor which controls everything: your cloud, your software, and your security. That's an interesting consideration. Why you might still want to review alternative products. I'm not saying it's a bad package. There's a reason why security people love it. But this is something. Remember, software asset management is not only about licenses. It's about software in total, and your security as well. Right. Do we have hybrid benefits under CSP agreement? I'll take it as a separate. So what I'm going to do with this question is I'm going to put into the list of waiting list for the Monday lives that I do in the mornings, and you can watch them recorded as well, and I'll answer it there if you don't mind. So thank you very much to everybody who has attended and survived until the end of this presentation. If you had to drop off, you can always come back. This is going to be left on the channel. I will probably in a couple of days I'll put chapters on it, so you could skip to your favorite topic, and you could just quickly find the one that you missed or you want to rewatch it. Please share it with your friends. Please click like on the YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. I mean, it's not difficult. If you like it genuinely, please click that like button now, because that will help other people to discover it. And obviously, we ultimately want people to we sharing all our knowledge here. We want more people to see it. We want more people to be in a powerful position when they talk to Microsoft, when they plan their savings, when they manage their licenses. So, Daryl, thank you very much for being here with me today again, and I hope you will join future sessions which involve may benefit from your participation. Have a great day, everybody. Have a great rest of the week. Daryl, do you want to say a couple of words, maybe?
I just want to say thank you again, Alex, for inviting me. Each time you invite me, I actually enjoy myself more and more. This is really fun. I don't see this as work. I see this as fun. You know, sharing knowledge with your community that's growing. I'm watching your Sam channel, SAMexpert channel, and I can see how it's growing, and it's a pleasure to see all the people and the engagement and the questions and how people really are concerned about their responsibility within the organization. And thank you again for everybody for staying on, and Alex, for you having me. And feel free to invite me whenever you want. I'm just going to jump on. You know, this is like having a cup of coffee with friends.
I certainly will. We have a very good synergy here, I think. So again, thank you, everybody, and safe with knowledge of licensing.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.